Hey, good morning and welcome to Saturday, day 4 of Mecum's Las Vegas motorcycle auction. Welcome to Mecum in the Morning. It's Matt, and once again, being joined by Johnny Lewis. Johnny, we have made it through all four. We've made it
We're getting close.
to
We
the
got it.
fourth day. We're getting close, man. I mean, have you been overwhelmed by all that's taken place over the last couple of days?
Yeah, I thought 4 days was going to be like a long time. It went by so fast, and I walked around this morning here, just kind of checking out the collections, and man, there's stuff I still missed, and it's like it's so cool to see all this.
So as a first timer, Johnny, to this experience, what advice or what insight would you give for people that are either coming out today for the first time, maybe they're on their way, or planning to attend a future Mecum auction, including a future motorcycle auction?
I think what I realized it's an education. You come to one of these, whether you're here to buy or even selling, but these guys know motorcycles, the people that are selling, the people that are buying, and it's so neat just to walk around. And for me, like I've said, I thought I knew motorcycles. I'm leaving here with an education, and I think that's part of it too. It's like you can be here looking to buy, but when you leave here with that knowledge, it's something that takes for a very long time, and now it makes me have a different perspective even more on motorcycles.
Yeah, that 130 years of motorcycle and history represented on site really has a lot of appeal beyond the auction block. As we'll see in today's show, we connected with a builder, and he was just one of several builders that we talked to that said they specifically come to an event like this for ideas,
Oh
for
yeah.
inspiration, for design techniques,
Yep.
different things that they can include in their bikes, which I think is phenomenal.
Yeah. No, we found some really cool stuff this last a couple days here. Just that the inspiration that even gave me that, like, man, they were doing that back then. Like, maybe we should try that on a race bike or so. Is this how their minds were thinking when they were building these motorcycles? The innovation. It's incredible. So.
Well, things are kicking off here in just a couple of moments here at the South Point Hotel and Casino. The daily rundown is going to include 74 pieces of road art, all kinds of great accessories to decorate any garage or office, anything like that. And then there's going to be 366 motorcycles being made available for sale and crossing the Mecum red carpet. And that includes bikes from 19 collections. And Johnny, we've said it before in the show, but about the uniqueness of those collections, because we have so many here, several dozen, and really what that indicates to potential buyers is the fact that that group of motorcycles has been curated, maintained. There's a lot of thought that's gone into them before they are made available at the auction.
Yeah, no, it is. It's amazing when you see that, and then like you said, the road art. I was walking down this morning and I came across the Ascot poster. It was an old racetrack that's got a lot of history, and I'm like, man, that would be cool to have. Like I came here, was like, I just got to work and talk about motorcycles. Now I'm like, I might slip out of here after the show and go buy something. So it's amazing, the collections, and how they curate everything, like you said, and put it together. It's very intriguing when you walk into Mecum auctions.
And road art, as you mentioned, is a great way to get into the world of collecting. So, perhaps if you're not, ready to jump into the world of full-size motorcycles or classic cars or trucks, road art is a great opportunity for people to want to seek out unique pieces, all the fascinating different accessories and different items that go along with our favorite motorcycles and cars. Also on site is, of course, the Mecum merch. If you want to pick up the latest gear, it's right as soon as you come into the entrance. All kinds of cool stuff. Get the latest swag, get the latest gear, and let's jump into a special motorcycle, Johnny. It's a 2004 BMW R1200GS that was owned by a musician. Before we detail some of the specifics, let's talk about the type of bike. This is an adventure bike. What does that mean, and what's some of the unique equipment on it?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting for an adventure bike to be here at this collection. So I was kind of like, looking into the history of it, so I saw that. But the adventure bike itself it's unique. It's kind of the most diverse motorcycle made today. It's where you can ride it on the road, and you can go fast. You can ride it off road, go through the trails. The way the suspension, the chassis built, they're also built to hold a lot of stuff. So if you go on long rides, you can throw the bags in, clothes and some extra gear. Sometimes extra parts when you take these things really off road, and you hear about guys doing adventure rides. They take motorcycles all across the world, and some of these guys have literally rode country to country, and across all the states. And, you know, it's amazing that these motorcycles can do it. And it's amazing the history of this motorcycle.
So this type of bike motorcycle is set up specifically to both be successful on pavement and then transition right to dirt and off road.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing, especially the technology nowadays in, like, you know, the 2020s. It's they have so much advanced. I mean, you can flip a button, it goes from street mode to off road, and it those dials back the engine power, you know, for the dirt to make it more controllable for the dirt going off road, trying to climb a mountain, or hey, you flip a switch and, you know, you want to go fast down the highway, and or you have another switch that can, you know, now switch electronics on the suspension. If you throw you know, passenger on the back and a bunch of bags, it adjusts the suspension. So the technology on the adventure bikes is probably some of the most advanced out of any motorcycle today.
Well, this special BMW has a celebrity owner who certainly put it through its paces. Here's Craig for the inside look.
Hi, this is Craig with Mecum Auctions Motorcycle Department, here with a very special bike that we're going to be selling at our auction in Las Vegas on Saturday. This is a 2004 BMW R1200GS, formerly owned by the fabulous drummer from the band Rush, Neil Peart. Mr. Peart used the bike on the Rush R30 tour and in his own personal travels. He's very well known for traveling by motorcycle, preferring to travel alone or with one other rider accompanying him, if at all possible. He wrote several travel books, both on bicycles and motorcycles, and he had a habit of retiring his motorcycles and selling them to his roadies, and this one came to us through one of those individuals, here to be sold in Las Vegas on Saturday. Because Neil preferred this motorcycle over his band's tour bus, it obviously does have some miles on it. It's a very well-traveled machine with quite a bit of history from one of the most famous drummers in the world.
That story is just wild about how that was. I mean, that really shows the passion for someone like Neil who said, hey, I've got this motorcycle, but I really want to go out and see the country.
Yeah, you know, if you ride motorcycles, you know, when you get on them, it's probably one of the the best time when you can just forget about everything. You're in the moment because you have to be thinking about all the controls and you're trying to keep balance on a motorcycle, but that's when you can just forget the world and go ride your motorcycle. And for me, I never really rode on the road much until I actually did a trip to Alaska and rode all across Alaska with a group of people. And that was the moment I actually fell back in love with motorcycles, because I always raced motorcycles and I always tried to go the fastest and be the fastest, and I would train that way. Then I realized, man, adventure riding is that time where you can just see nature, be alone like that, and not need people, because it's just like you're at one with this motorcycle, riding the wind and just having a great experience on a motorcycle. And that's, to me, adventure riding is actually what made me fall back in love with motorcycles after years and years of racing.
It's going to be very exciting when this one crosses the block today. It does include a lot of different accessories that come with it, including the original purchase receipt signed by Neil from McBride's Cycle of Toronto when he bought the motorcycle new. And then I think also a very sought after piece is going to be, includes a pair of his signature series Pro Mark 747 drumsticks, because I think equally known of his love of motorcycling, of course, is his skill behind a drum set. Yeah. All right, well, let's shift gears a little bit, Johnny. Let's talk about custom bikes. We've got some great ones out here, and we've got some up-and-coming builders that are on the rise and that are really putting a lot of innovation, a lot of craftsmanship into what they're producing. And there's been a set here that has gotten all kinds of attention. I caught up with the builder and master fabricator, Corey Mauck, for some background about his skill set and some of the details on these one-of-a-kind creations. This eye-popping set of custom motorcycles behind me were all built by Corey Mauck. Corey is a military veteran with loads of fabrication experience. And Corey, I'd love to hear, where did you get your love and your skills for working with your hands?
Well, the skills started at a very young age. You know, in high school, I started as an auto mechanic. Night classes, I would do welding. I took welding to the next level. We would do competitions in California, went to the state level, competed in TIG welding. After that, went right into the military, kept building my mechanical skills, got out, worked on restoration on antique aircraft. So it's just all built from there.
When did the bike building efforts take off?
So the bike building didn't really take off till about 6 years ago, is I ended up buying a custom bike that wasn't very custom. So it needed a lot of work done, and I really enjoyed the process.
Your shop is called Aero Precision.
Yep.
What's the reasoning for that name?
So aviation, aerospace, you know, everything's got to be meticulous, on point, exact. And that's the big thing is I always try to make them aircraft ready. You know, that's my big thing is they have to look good and they have to ride good too. We have one really special build going on right now that's going to be debuted next week at the One Moto here in Vegas. It's over 40 feet of art twist metal.
There's so much artistry and craftsman, Corey, and I would love to hear from you as the builder about some of those inside tips. Can we take a look?
Yeah, let's go. Let's start at the beginning. So we'll start off with Dragon's Blood. This is my 9th build I've done. As you can see, it's a Springer front end. It's pretty far stretched out, riding on 23s. Kind of like an old board track style, but not really, with a modern twist.
And that name?
Yeah, Dragon's Blood comes from the paint. The color is Dragon's Blood.
Speaking of the paint, do you do that or do you work with another shop?
I work with multiple artists on this. So this artist was down in Phoenix when he painted this one for me, you know, and so it just depends. I have local guys in Oregon or Utah. It just depends. The leather seats for every build I've done has been by one person, or Juan Gonzalez, and he's been awesome. He's been there since day one.
We're here with Copperhead. Corey, tell me all about it.
So Copperhead is a bobber style motorcycle. As you can see, it's a lot more compact than the last one, but the main features of this is the leaf spring front end, you know, take it back to the old days. Then we move down the bike and you can see I'm starting to incorporate the art twist on the frame for the fender and the suicide shift as well. The art twist originated years and years ago, but the guy who made it famous was Indian Larry. You know, he would incorporate it in all his frames, and I get a lot of references. Man, that bike reminds me of Indian Larry, you know, and so it's a pretty big honor to hear that from someone.
I'm seeing more art twists here on Dirty Nickel. What's the story on this build?
So this is my first frame that I actually incorporated the art twist into it. So that's part of the main support of the frame. That's 1 inch thick square that I have to notch and then put in a fixture and twist 180, then the other 180 to get that unique pattern into it.
I also noticed that this trio are unique with this very identifiable front fork. What do you call it?
I call it a horizontal girder. You know, instead of the more traditional girder where it's more vertical, I just brought the shock up. The fulcrum does change on it. So you can see with the bigger wheel, I had to extend the fulcrum on the bottom.
I also noticed that some of them have this remote reservoir. What's the story on that?
So it just looks really neat with that oil reservoir back there. You'll have 9 out of 10 people come up. What is that? Is that NOS? It's just a neat feature to it.
I see Crimson Jewel has an added level of interest with this custom metal etching. Corey, who did that and what was kind of the design inspiration?
This is our first one that we've done with metal engraving. The artist who did it was Dago Dane. He's really into the lowrider scene, as you can see some of the patterns and all that. But with metal engraving, the tanks have to be perfect. You know, the fender has to be perfect. There's no hiding it with Bondo or anything. So any metal finish that you don't do correct, it's going to show.
Corey, thanks for the inside details on them. If people want to learn more about your bike building operations, where can they find out more?
The best place to find us is on Instagram at Aero Precision Metal Works. You can see the whole build process from starting out from either tubing, square stock, or flat sheet metal. You can see the whole build.
And you can find this at Crossing the Block here at Mecum, Las Vegas on Saturday.
Matt, you know, like, I have such appreciation for bike builders like this. As a, you know, with the professional motorcycle racing, building race bikes and teams. The thing is with these guys, they're so creative that the build process takes so long. I mean, it's like, I've been recently just around a couple of guys, and they sit there and they see a vision that nobody else sees, and they can start making. It's not like they do it on a computer and it's all CAD design. It's in their mind, and just that creative starts flowing, and it's amazing to see. But then, you know, they start it, they think they got it done, and then they go back and they change it again. So it's that aspect of custom building is just so incredible for me to watch and see. So I mean, I'm sure for you to talk with him and discuss that is something pretty impressive.
Yeah, you know, the thing that struck me from my time with Corey is how comfortable he was with metalworking.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds obvious, but it's just one of those things from chatting with him and seeing the final result and then seeing the build process, seeing him out in the shop with the torch, bending the metal. He's got such a familiarity with metal,
Oh, yeah.
how it can bend, what he can do with it. And like you said, I think the only limit is in his mind, just about what he wants to do with it. And I love talking about the different bikes, the different things that he incorporated. I mean, he was trying different things, seeing what works. And like even that front girdle suspension, he was telling me and our show producer, Alyssa, about just how that was something he wanted to try and that he's experimenting with. And so, and then now he's doing more of that art twist, and he's really leaving his mark. And I think he's also excited to keep exploring and keep building his brand, and also to keep coming back to future Mecum auctions, where we are seeing young next-gen talent coming up. And like we've talked about at the top of the show, coming to an event like this auction, specifically for that design inspiration, leaving with a whole bunch of ideas, and then coming back with bikes that have incorporated some of those design features.
Yeah, that's why, you know, these shows always go by so fast, because you just, I mean, I was in the hotel room thinking about motorcycles when I went to sleep and thinking about when I wake up, and excited to be here, you know, day 4. So amazing.
Well, big thanks to Corey for giving us that inside look at his creations. They are S243 through 247. They're going to be selling today. Those are Dragon's Blood, Copperhead, Big Fat Woody, Dirty Nickel, and Crimson Jewel. Those are the names of his pieces.
Just as the names is as wild as the design.
All right. Well, you know, we've talked a lot about history, and I think you did some research this week, and you found out that we have 13 decades represented on site.
Yeah, we did. And when you start going through all those decades, you start going, man, it's this. I'm like, my brain was on fire. So we did a little piece on it, and it ended up, I think, pretty cool. 13 decades, countless legendary motorcycles. Let's take a ride through motorcycle history, starting with the 1900s. The dawn of motorcycling. Let's start with the 1910 Flying Merkel. One of the earliest pioneers in American motorcycle engineering, Flying Merkel was built for endurance, speed, and style way ahead of its time. Cool to see that one of the first motorcycles had 4 horsepower. Let's see what the 1920s brings. Though it was the last model year for the Cleveland 4, the 1920s brought engineering and power together. So the Cleveland 4 obviously is a 4-cylinder motorcycle. Engine's a lot bigger, motorcycle's a lot bigger. The advance they made in the 19-year difference is pretty incredible, going from 4 horsepower to 40. So this engine might not stand out to you, but the 1930s brought one of the most iconic engines in motorcycle history. Meet the Knucklehead. This is Harley-Davidson's first production overhead valve V-twin engine, replacing the flathead engine. A game changer in power, design, and still turning heads today. The 1930s, it was focused on power and advancements. Now, the 1940s is all about reliability. To my point, we found a 1941 Indian Chief. Between 1942 and 1950, this motorcycle rode over 21,000 miles, and this bike's seen Route 66 end to end. And believe it or not, this thing still runs today. We talked about reliability for the long haul. Let's talk about reliability on the track. And here I found the 1968 Peoria TT winning Triumph. It was the perfect combination of motorcycle to win the Peoria TT with its 649cc parallel engine and the chassis needed to win the 1968 Peoria TT. If you didn't know, Peoria TT is the longest running professional flat track race still to this day. From sliding into the 60s, we jumped to the Golden Eras motocross, the 1970s.
Expert riders maneuvering their machines through these intricate jumps.
This 1979 Kawasaki KX250 shows the progression of suspension in that era. The suspension was designed to meet the demand of motocross and supercross racing. From the 1900s to today, each decade has left its mark. Which one's your favorite? Leave a comment below.
I think my favorite's all of them.
It's hard to choose. I mean, I wanted to ride every single one of those. Just go through the decades, be like, I rode this one, I rode this one, I rode that one. But maybe next year.
Maybe next year. No, I love it. And, you know, it really does speak, that piece really does showcase just how you can come and see just so much history. It's interesting to see the innovation. We talked about that earlier this week too, with how during the military years, how that drives innovation. And then of course with recreation or different other areas of interest, that also fuels technology. And I think that was evidence in that piece.
Yeah, no, it's amazing to look at these bikes, and the first motorcycles having, you know, just say roughly 4 horsepower. They're selling motorcycles that have 200 horsepower nowadays, and you know, just the advancements, and it's cool to see some of the newer models here, and some of the excitement of the spectators here kind of checking out the bikes and seeing some of the new stuff on hand too as well. It's neat.
All right, so from your walking around, Johnny, what do you estimate is one of the highest output motorcycles that we have on site?
We saw one that had 143 horsepower. It was a super bike,
okay.
You know, like a super bike here. So it's incredible to think. I mean, even the Harley baggers now, like I said yesterday on the show, they're hitting 183 miles an hour. Just the advancements of motorcycles is amazing. But I actually have such appreciation leaving Mecum this year about, you know, the antique motorcycles and just the eras that, you know, everything originated from.
Well, from the very earliest to the wildest customs to the very latest super bikes, it's all here across the block. Well, we appreciate you for joining us the last couple of days here at Mecum in the Morning. Big shout out to Johnny, and great job co-hosting. We'll have to get you back in the hot seat when we've got some more motorcycles to dive into. Wherever you're watching, leave us a comment. If you're watching on Mecum's YouTube channel, subscribe. Let us know what you think of the show. Let us know what consignments have got you excited, what kind of motorcycles that our viewers are into. Be interesting to kind of see that as well. And as we sign off, get ready for a lot of coverage of the auction today. You can catch the live stream on Mecum's YouTube channel, and then you can also catch the live broadcast also on Mecum's YouTube channel with expert commentary and insight from the team of Scott Hoke, Paul Dorleon, Ralph Shaheen, and Hannah Lopa. Hannah was doing a great job. I learned a lot from watching some of her pieces yesterday.
Yeah, she's in the Moto America. She knows racing, she knows motorcycles, so it's cool to have that group of people sharing their knowledge out here as well.
Well, there's a lot in store. We hope you enjoy the day. And of course, we will see you in just a couple weeks at Mecum Glendale for another episode of Mecum in the Morning.